What's going on, everybody? Beautiful day out, a little cloudy, but and it's been breezy, but it's been warm the past couple days. And when we're terribly a lot of rain, but we've had little, and I'm sorry, we got junk everywhere. We're getting it done. My wife done decided we're getting a dumpster and throwing a bunch of crap away instead of hoarding it and keeping it. But stuff that I need, some of it I need. It's a leaf vacuum, a couple four-wheelers and generator and just different odd and end, and then junk mixed in between it. But anyhow, tires from kids bringing tires home and whatnot. But anyway, what I've done is I've muffler modded the 2511T. But I muffler modded this 2511T right here. And these mufflers are pretty thin. I've done put it all back together, but I'm gonna explain what I've done to it. It's pretty cut and dry. There's not a lot going on in this muffler here, just terribly a lot. But right here, I walled out a hole big enough for my pipe to fit. And then I tack welded a little bit. These mufflers are very thin, so they'd be very hard to weld. Or for me, they are. If you're a good welder, probably not. So I ended up brazing it with the silver solder, most of it. I did tack, just very lightly tack a couple of spots, more of a filler, not so much of holding. And then up here, I did get, you'll drill this out, and then you'll see like a deflector in there, and that's what the spark arrestor screen screws to. I took that out, and once you take that out, then you'll see another plate, and it's got like holes in it for it to come down. It's like a divider, and it comes down and then it comes out and around. I think it's like just got a divider all the way through. So I left it, and what I done is it's about a 1/2 inch down in there, and I let this pipe right here rest on it. Then I brazed everything up, and then I took a drill bit, and you see a little bit of that shiny there. That's some of that little that plate in the middle left, but I drilled most of that out. It's mostly open. There's like 2 little tabs sticking there. And then what I done was I tapped down. I left the screen out of it up here, and I tapped this down, the deflector down, and welded it shut, because I didn't want too much coming out of it, because this pipe right here probably triples or quadruples the original hole, and it's got a lot less restriction. So I didn't want it being too open, is what I'm getting at. I don't know exactly what this pipe is, but I'll measure it. But I haven't adjusted the carburetor on this, and the other day I started it up. It may run like absolute turd today. It was starting to get coked up and gummed up, just like what you see on those little bitty weed eaters and stuff. This is about the size of a weed eater motor. It got an outlet about like it. They don't want it real loud. And these saws, more than the bigger ones, you gotta watch, because they'll start gumming up on you. When they do, they get to running hot, running crappy. This one I've not run a lot of things through it, but I've used it quite a bit. Like, I use this thing quite a bit, especially cleaning up or something, a lot of little limbs, and even some climbing. I don't try to do just terribly a lot of climbing, but I do some from time. I do some from time to time, and then there you go. So, but this saw's, not overworked, but it does have some time on it. And it was starting to get some gunk in it. But this thing, we're going to fire it up and see what happens. This is not pretty, and I didn't paint it or whatever, but it's mostly hidden, so it didn't really matter to me. And, I didn't want it just looking like dog shit, but I run out of solder, and it was hard to, this muffler is, like I say, pretty thin. You got to be careful when you're doing it, because you can tear it and bend it in just a matter of seconds. But I was hitting that deflector, and I thought it was kind of a 2-piece deal, but it wasn't. So I just tore that out through the hole that I made right here. You can tear that deflector out, which when I tore that deflector out, then I had no place to screw my screen back in anyway. So I just welded that hole up, and beat my deflector down, put me some tacks across it, welded it up. Or the only outlet I got is this now. But here we go. Let's see what I was talking. I don't know if that hit a lick or not. Boy, she did that, huh? am I? Alright guys, so I'm back in the shop real quick. Got through doing that 2511. I was aiming to show y'all the deflector, but the deflector on it, but I couldn't find it right then and there, so I'm doing this little interjection here. So, junky lights, boy. I'm in the back. I need to go get my light from up front. But that's how it was starting to get clogged up. And, you know, not that it's, well, you can see it pretty good without it, but that's how, you know, that's how it looked. So, no more than I ran that saw, it was already in bad shape. Worse shape rather than I like for it to be, honestly. So, you know, I'll keep that because I keep them because you never know when you're gonna need one. And two, on these muffler mods I'm doing, if you ever went anywhere that you had to have a spark arrestor, which I don't really cut anywhere as of now that needs one. If I ever did, I've got a couple saws that still have everything like they're supposed to have, you know. The Makita does. I put a spark arrestor back in it, both sides. That may be about it right now, because I've started muffling on and everything. But before that, I had quite a few. The 572 wheel, Cajun, talked with him. Of course, he showed us a muffler mod. He leaves them just factory. And there's a lot of good guys out there that's got good muffler mods. Aaron, he does them better than I do, but similar, you know, with a one round pipe porch coming out the side. I think he might use a little bigger pipe. Cajun uses the stock setup, so you know you pretty well look stock, but he gets everything. Aaron gets everything. I didn't get everything in the 562 nor the 550. I just added the port and just let the rest be what it is. Not terribly open, but still more open. The 550 exhaust has got a plate over in front of it, but it's at the top. It's not like the 562. And I've got a muffler mod coming out on the 550 and showing the inside of it and everything. I've done it just like the 562, but I moved it over a little bit just because I've got the larger dogs ordered for it. Not showed it running yet because I had everything down. I went ahead and took the clutch off and put the 3/8 sprocket on there. I like running 3/8 chain just because that's what I like, and I like sharpening 3/8 chain better than I like sharpening 325. And plus I have abundance of 3/8 chain and not a whole lot of 325. So I'm not gonna go out and buy a whole lot of 325 chain when I've got already quite a bit of the young enough there to get with it. I'm not gonna buy it when I already have, you know, the 3/8. So in that, I don't 325 3/8. The grind I'm doing, I'm not using all the tooth or whatever. Honestly, it's not gonna be that much worse on it. And you can set your rakers a little higher to where it don't grab as much wood, and be okay with running a bigger chain. I like running a 20-inch bar the least, and that's what I had on my other one. That's what I ran on the 261 and all that. So, you know, it pulls it fine, good enough. It ain't maybe faster or about the same. If it's slower, it's not by enough to tell it, so really don't matter. And I plan on having that 550 ported anyway. So I was going to port the 592, but I got to thinking, the big saws are good to have. 660s, 592s, 395s, whatever you want to call it. And they're great saws, don't get me wrong. I like them all. That's why I got them. But the deal is, you know, I had that 395 ported by Randy, Mastermind, and it's a stout saw. It's a great saw. He done a great job on it. But here's the deal. You pick up the 572, the 500i, they cut well. They, you know, they're not going to pull long bar as well as that 395 is. But everything around here that I'm cutting, the 500i, a ported 572, the 7900, will pull a 28-inch bar well enough for me, you know, because I'm not in no hurry. And it's not like I'm cutting huge trees. If I ever cut huge trees, then yeah, sure, I'll get the big saw out. But if I was cutting timber that was like out west, you know, 4, 3 to 5 foot about every day or whatever, it'd be totally different. But around here, you know, I get some big trees every once in a while, but they're not, it's not like I'm cutting miles of them, you know what I mean? So I got thinking about that, and I thought, you know, I'm not going to get that ported, the 592 ported, just because I don't want it to be like the 395 just sitting, because to me, if you leave a ported saw just sitting, it doesn't do the builder justice, because, you know, they may think you don't like it or whatever, and I like that, the build on that 395 just as good as like anything. It's a good saw, good stout saw. 395 stout anyway, but it's daggum heavy. I'd rather cut with a little lighter saw that's a little slower, or, you know, whatever, and not be tugging all that weight around. Now, back, you know, 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't mind the heavy saw that bad. It didn't bother me. I didn't think much about weights of saws. And even a couple years ago, that's when I bought that 395. That 395 ain't that old. I bought it in 2020 or 2021, maybe 2020. I can't remember exactly. So I've had, you know, a couple, 2 or 3 years, and you know, I could still do it, don't get me wrong, but my thing is when you can run something newer, and that's why I guess I like the new saw so well. And if you go watch Aaron A. Lynch, that 562 had 12 degrees of blowdown. J&S, he got a 362 saw. He hadn't done any timing numbers on it. He talked like that he was going to, but he believes that 362 is a short blowdown saw from the factory. And the deal is, you know, he's talking about how good that 362 run, the 562 run really good for a 60cc saw, stout, you know, for a 60cc saw. And the 400 is probably a short blowdown, I don't know for sure, but it's a stout saw in the same sense. So here's where I'm going with this pattern. The way Aaron and Cajun and some of them other guys support, you know, they tend to like the short blowdown more. I don't know that they do every saw like that, and I don't know exactly everything they do. I'm not going to act like that I do, but I do know that they like the shorter blowdown, I believe. And their saws rip. They got miles of torque, and really when you're cutting, and they got speed too, you know, plenty of speed, but they got torque, and I like the torque. And that's why these newer saws, they have more torque, it seems like, or more power than the older like saws do. That a stock 572 will outcut. It's stouter than you know, here I go with outcutting again. It's stouter than a stock 372 X-Torque. And even the OE, which I didn't have an original OE, but I had the holes for my Pro or whatever. But that 572 would outcut the 372 X-Torque I had and the 372 OE G372 Pro that I had. So what I'm getting at is these newer saws are stouter and lighter, so that's why I like them. And a lot of guys like tuning carbs and everything and whatnot. And yeah, it's nice to be able to adjust and put your own feel to it or do whatever you want to do, but it's really nice if you're working with a saw. I get playing with them, porting them up, and wanting them and racing them, wanting to tune them just perfect for that day, and blah blah blah, you know. But when you're working with them or cutting them, and some guys even like them screwdriver, playing with a screwdriver even when they're working with them. But for me, and even J&S said that it's nice not to have to do it. You know, he liked that Mtronic steel that he got 362. I'm pretty sure that's what I gathered from it. Not trying to put words in his mouth, but it's nice not to have to do that. So that's why I lean towards the newer saws, because the newer saws are cutting the best that they can cut every second. You know, carbureted saw, weather change element, well, she can change them too, but it'll adjust for so much of it. But you know, you get a little weather change, it can adjust, it can affect the carbureted saw. So you know, may not affect it enough that it's just a dog and you can really tell it, but it'll, you know, it may slow it down some is what I'm getting at. And anyway, so I like the auto tune and Mtronic saws, the newer ones. I just do, for sure. So anyway, that's my little giddy up rant on that, and you know, and I got off on all these new saws. But anyway, it's a good cutting saw, and I'll just blank the ceiling. But anyhow, I'm gonna get that 550 ported, but I'm gonna run it up on some 3/8 and then all that kind of stuff. So you'll see this 2511T Echo muffler mod before you've seen that. I actually done the 2511 after I've done the 550. And what I was getting at with these spark arresters, if I ever do want to run one on it, if I got to, you know, what I'll do is I'll cut me a piece of that off just a little bigger. I'll heat it up and I'll silver solder some screen on the end of it, just a couple dots, just to have it on there. But you know, I've cut in the wee morning hours, and I've cut at, you know, dusky dark, and some up on into the dark. And even with the spark arresters, you can still see little sparks coming out of them. You know, is it as bad as what it could be? Probably not, but you know, it still comes out. And I know some places just require you to have them, but I don't reckon I've ever cut anywhere around here that requires it. If I haven't heard of it, so which I haven't ever looked into it, and I haven't asked, and I don't really care, but I don't guess there's any public or national or whatever woods or forest that you can cut at around here that I know of, like there is some places, I guess. So, you know, anyhow, we'll catch y'all on the next one. Have a good one. And maybe one of these years we'll get out and get some cutting done again. See ya.